Zhou Hao traveled through the world of Douluo and obtained the check.in system. At the beginning, awaken the dark gold terror claw bear martial soul, with innate full soul power and external soul bones. Having invincible attacks, the strongest defense, and an extremely strong physique, accompanied by the gradual evolution of martial souls, let's see how he sets off a storm in the Douluo Continent. Step by step towards the peak. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Awakening at the beginning of the game. Dark gold terror claw bear martial soul with no pop-ups, Douluo. Awakening at the beginning. Dark gold terror claw bear martial soul. TXT complete collection download, Douluo. Awakening at the beginning. Dark gold terror claw bear martial soul. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Transit and check-in system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Transit and check-in system southwest of the Tiando Empire, Fasno Province. Qingshi Village is a small village located in the southern part of Notting City, with only over 200 people. There is a huge blue stone at the entrance of the village, which is the place where the children in the village play all day long, and it is also the origin of the village name. The village has been farming for generations, relying on the prosperity of Notting City. The villagers can always sell their vegetables and food at a good price, and they live a prosperous life with the neighboring Holy Soul village. Zhou Hao had just finished lunch at the home of village chief Jike and leaned against the big blue stone, feeling quite melancholic. Zhou Hao has been in this world for almost half a month. I was originally a handsome young man from Blue Star who was about to graduate from college. While playing parachuting during my graduation trip, a sudden bolt from the blue sent me to the world of Douluo, and I even traveled through the Holy Soul village. Zhou Hao recalled that Douluo from back then seemed to have reached the 5th installment, which was terrifying. The original owner of this body, also known as Zhou Hao, was an orphan in the village. He was adopted by the village chief since childhood and is now 5 years old. Zhou Hao let out a long sigh and sighed in his heart, "Let me travel by Tang-san's side, why don't you have my golden finger?" Ding, the check.in system has started. Recognizing biometric information. Identification completed, collection in progress. Welcome host, the check.in system has been deployed. Before Zhou Hao could finish his sighing words, a pleasant system prompt sounded in his ear. He stood up in surprise and looked at the virtual panel in front of him. At this moment, there was only one voice in his heart. My cheats have been credited. At this point, the system interface is only empty, with a red dot in the upper right corner. Zhou Hao clicked on it, and the system's synthesized sound prompted, "Ding. Congratulations on triggering the beginner gift package. Please click to claim it." The red dot on the system interface expands and 3 beginner gift packages appear. Gift Pack 1. Detected that the host is about to awaken their martial soul, but their martial soul is extremely poor. You can freely choose a martial soul from the following options. 1. Evil-eyed white tiger. 2. Nine-hearted begonia. 3. Titan ape. 4. Dark gold claw bear, with unknown effects. Gift Pack 2. Top-tier storage soul guide. Optional forms. Belt, bracelet, ring. Gift Pack 3. Choose a trait. Upgraded charm, strong body, and sleazy temperament. Zhou Hao looked at the various options in front of him without much hesitation, and chose the dark gold claw bear martial soul, which is perfect for both attack and defense. Although it has unknown effects, I don't think the beginner's gift package has any malicious intent. The soul guide chose the ring, and the last option was to choose a strong body. After all, he feels that his appearance will definitely not be inferior in the future. After completing the selection, Zhou Hao seemed to feel a powerful force descending on him, and the roar of a giant bear seemed to come from the palm of his right hand. It was then that Zhou Hao realized the unknown effect described by the system. His martial soul seemed to be able to continuously enhance his bloodline until he reached the most powerful level of the Bear Lord. At the age of only 5, the young body suddenly felt an inexhaustible force, and at the same time, a faint blue ring quietly appeared on the middle finger of the left hand. Zhou Hao suppressed his joy and ran back to the village chief Jike's house, saying, "Grandpa Jike, when will the awakened martial soul come to our village? I'm almost 6 years old." Jike's old face showed a kind smile and said, "There are still about 3 months left. When you and the children from the Holy Soul village turn 6, the adults from the Martial Soul Hall will naturally come." The old man touched Zhou Hao's hair. "This child has been sensible since childhood, and he hopes that he can become a soul master in the future, leave this Qingshi village, and no longer rely on himself as a bad old man to live." Upon hearing this, Zhou Hao laughed and felt an immense respect for the elderly from the original owner's memory. He couldn't help but say, "When I become a soul master, I will definitely make my grandfather live a good life." The wrinkles on Jike's face turned into a chrysanthemum smile, and he was very happy. Adopting this child made his later life extremely satisfying. After chatting with Jike for a while, Zhou Hao left home and ran to the small mountain by the village, wanting to try his own strength. Along the way, he walked briskly. Although his 5-year-old short legs couldn't take big steps, he didn't feel any fatigue. He casually found a big stone and punched it, but it was already torn apart. Feeling the surging strength and stamina in his body, Zhou Hao looked towards the direction of Holy Soul Village. Tang San was there, and Zhou Hao hesitated whether or not to officially meet the Son of Destiny who would inherit the throne. For a long time, he dispelled this idea. "Do you have Xiantian Gong that can rival my system? Just pay attention to Tang San's movements." Ding, a new world anchor has been detected. Holy Soul Village. Post a limited time check that IN task and sign in at the Holy Soul Village Soul Hand Seal. Reward. Innate full soul power. Time limit. 3 days. Zhou Hao smiled and said, "Tang San, since that's the case, let me come and meet you." Holy Soul Village, Old Jack Village Chief is vividly telling the children about the legends of the past at the Soul Holy Hand Seal, and giving each child a carrot. Young Tang San was carrying a bundle of firewood and rushing home, without any intention of listening to that old story. Zhou Hao had already arrived at the gate outside the village and saw Tang San not far away. He squinted his eyes and looked at him steadily with steady steps, firm eyes, and a rosy and healthy complexion. Xiantian Gong was indeed very good. Tang San has been practicing since childhood, with 6 senses of clarity and clarity. He naturally knew that someone was staring at him, with a purple light flashing in his eyes. However, when he turned around, he saw that it was Zhou Hao from the neighboring village, a 5-year-old brat. He was puzzled and didn't want to deal with these children, so he prepared to leave quickly. Old Jack saw Tang San and called out, "Xiao San, come and play with everyone for a while, eat 2 carrots. Your father just let him lie down, don't cook for him, let him go hungry." His tone was full of heartache and a strong hatred towards Tang Hao. Tang San shook his head and said, "Grandpa Jack, I'm back, and Kanji is still cooking at home." Then he left quietly without saying much. Old Jack sighed and looked up to see Zhou Hao again. He had a good impression of this obedient child from the neighboring village. He often drank tea and chatted with Jik, knowing that the child had been orphaned since childhood and was very sensible. "Xiao Hao, come on, have a carrot. Are you coming to play with everyone?" Zhou Hao quickly walked over and took the carrot from Old Jack's hand. He smiled and said, "I just finished my meal at Grandpa's place. Come over and see how you're doing lately." When Old Jack felt comforted in his heart, Zhou Hao silently recited the sign in, and the system's pleasant prompt sound had already sounded. Ding, congratulations on the host's successful first check.in, rewarding innate full soul power. Unlock achievements, sign in as a beginner, and receive a reward that can upgrade to 1 soul bone. Do you want to claim it now? Zhou Hao watched as old Jack began to hold him back and talk incessantly about the legendary soul saint, causing his head to swell. However, the other children listened to the story with great interest, and their eyes were filled with longing and longing. After listening for a while, Zhou Hao quickly slipped out. In his heart, he silently confirmed and the task interface of the system cleared. At the same time, Zhou Hao clearly felt a burning sensation coming from his palm. There seems to be a lot of unusable energy throughout the body, which should be a full level 10 soul power. Due to the unawakened martial soul, it can only be stored quietly in the body for the time being. Moreover, Zhou Hao discovered that the innate full soul power rewarded by the system is not only a level 10 soul power, but also accompanied by an increase in the level of martial soul. If the dark gold terror claw bear martial soul I received before was just an ordinary bloodline, then now Zhou Hao's martial soul is not that simple, at least it has been elevated to the level of 10,000 years. As soul power increases, a strange energy covering the right arm quickly attaches to the bone, which is the soul bone rewarded by the system. The best soul bone has been automatically matched, with the dark gold terror claw attached to the soul bone. Based on the host's physical fitness and martial soul strength, the lifespan has been tentatively set at 3,500 years, which can be increased with the growth of cultivation. Zhou Hao felt the surging and sharp power, clenching his right hand and swallowing the dark golden light. The domineering and sharp aura spread across his face. Zhou Hao released his palm with satisfaction, feeling very happy in his heart. The system interface displays several pieces of information data. Host. Zhou Hao Realm. None, Level 10 Soul Warrior, not awakened. Martial Soul. Dark Gold Claw Bear, upgraded once. Soul Bone. 3,500-year-old Dark Gold Terror Claw. Soul Guide. Storage Ring. With Tang San's progress in strength, he is definitely not my opponent, and it will be the same in the future. I can make friends, as long as I grasp Tang San's movements, everything will not deviate. In the early stage, I will survive and develop, and in the later stage, I naturally don't have to be afraid of anyone. Zhou Hao thought to himself that there was a super Douluo in the blacksmith shop not far away. Tang San couldn't provoke him yet. As long as he didn't have any grudges with this son of fate, even if he was just an ordinary friend, he would only have 100 benefits without any harm. After 3 months, the martial soul awakened and Zhou Hao could go hunt down the first soul ring. With a powerful body rewarded by the system, such a powerful martial soul, coupled with the invincible dark gold terror claw of the same level, Zhou Hao felt that he could try the power-type soul beast for over 1,000 years with the first soul ring. Zhou Hao thought all the way and arrived at the hill next to Holy Soul Village. Lying in the grass, he could see some scars on the surrounding rocks or trees. This seems to be the place where Tang Sanping practiced daily. But Zhou Hao had no intention of leaving, and with his current strength, he was not afraid of Tang San at all. Tang San went home, put down the firewood, filled congee, and went out to practice alone. But I happened to bump into Zhou Hao lying here. Zhou Hao. What are you doing here? Tang San frowned slightly, his purple magic pupils poised for action, and the sleeve arrow on his wrist was also fastened with a mechanism. Tang San, who had just arrived at Douluo, still strictly practiced the Shentian treasure record in his heart. He felt that the child's gaze in front of him seemed to be a bit similar to his, very mature, not an ordinary ignorant little brat. Xiao San, I'm fine. I just came to see Grandpa Jack. The scenery here is very beautiful, so I came up and lay down for a while. I was too tired from playing yesterday. Zhou Hao smiled, his eyes very simple. Tang San glanced at the cultivation marks he had left nearby and saw that Zhou Hao's expression did not seem to change much. He couldn't help but laugh in his heart. I'm thinking nonsense. I suspect a child, how could he possibly discover my secret? Okay, this is my territory. If you want to stay here, you have to knock me down. Tang San relaxed and playfully teased the 5-year-old child in front of him, as if he was also a mischievous child who ruled the mountains. Then I'm going to go up, my strength is very strong. Zhou Hao smiled and clenched his fists as he stood up. Two souls from another world, both in their 20s and 30s, with childlike bodies and acting together, Zhou Hao couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Zhou Hao didn't show any tricks and rushed over directly. He wanted to test Tang San's strength. Tang San didn't even use Shen Gong. He thought he could handle such a small scene with just one hand. When the two of them came into contact, Tang San suddenly felt a strong attack and was almost knocked away. The ghost took 2 steps to release his strength. Tang San looked at Zhou Hao in surprise. Was it innate divine power? I told you to be careful, come again. Zhou Hao smiled happily, and Tang San also used a bit of Shen Gong's internal strength. The two of them went back and forth without hurting each other. For a long time, Tang San felt a bit depressed and lost interest in playing with this child. His Shen Gong had been stuck in the first level for a long time, and if he didn't use the unique skills of the Tang sect, he wouldn't be able to defeat a child even younger than himself. You go back quickly, I have other things to do, so I won't play with you, Tang San Zhou Hao said in a somewhat helpless tone. Zhou Hao was satisfied and said, okay, I'll go back and come back to play with you in a few days. The sun has already set in the west, with a gentle breeze blowing. The golden sunlight is reflected on Zhou Hao, and his back is stretched long. Tang San looks at Zhou Hao, unaware that a new legend in Douluo Continent will rise before his eyes. If readers are willing to finish reading, give a rating to the small work. Book Friend Group 3697061008. Welcome everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Awakening of Martial Souls, Dark Gold Terror Claw. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Awakening of Martial Souls, Dark Gold Terror Claw. Martial Soul City, Papal Palace. Bibi Dong leaned against the throne, dressed in a luxurious black robe adorned with gold patterns, wearing a 9-curved purple gold crown on his head, and holding a scepter about 2 meters long, inlaid with countless gemstones. Her fair skin and almost perfect appearance exude the authority of the Pope. At this moment, she was listening to the reports of the bishops in the various sub-halls below. After a long time, she opened her phoenix eyes and lifted her vermilion lips lightly, saying, all right, you guys step down and give the information to Nana. Let her organize it before reporting. Yes, Your Excellency the Pope. The red bishops respectfully bowed and retreated. Until they disappear at the end of the hall. A shadow hidden in the shadows seemed to have come to life and saluted Bibi Dong's side, saying, under the Pope's crown, our hands have searched the entire sky and stars, including the stars and the sunset forest. Tang Hao seems to have evaporated from the human world. Elder Ghost, it's been almost 6 years now. What's the use of raising you useless people in the Martial Soul Hall? Black Shadow knelt down on one knee and said, the Pope, calm down. I think this year, Tang Hao's son should also awaken his martial soul. As long as we send orders and discover that the Haotian hammer or hammer martial soul must be reported, there will be clues to follow. Okay, let's do as you say. Make sure to pull out Tang Hao for me, Bibi Dong finished, rubbed his temples, and closed his eyes. The elder ghost quietly retreated into the shadows and disappeared. 3 months later, Qingshi village. Jike village chief summoned the children from the village and said, children, the Soul Master from the Martial Soul Hall has arrived at the Holy Soul Village and will soon come to us to perform the Martial Soul Awakening ceremony for you. You must obey and not be afraid later, you know. Zhou Hao had some expectations in the crowd. For the past 3 months, it seemed that due to martial soul reasons, the system had fallen into silence and no more sign-in tasks were issued. He could only exercise his body every day and sometimes go to spar with Tang San. Over the past few months, although Tang San has not taught him anything, he has also learned many combat skills, which can be considered a great benefit. Tang-san also has his good side, he is extremely calm and serious, and he is also very filial to Tang Hao. Currently, Zhou Hao and Tang-san have a relatively happy relationship. Soon, the village entrance ahead became lively, and a handsome young man walked in with a faint arrogance in his eyes. Amidst the envious gazes of the crowd, he waved to Jik and said, "Bring those children over." Jik smiled respectfully, bent over and nodded, leading the children to the martial soul hall in the center of the village. He turned around and said, "Don't be nervous, everyone. The War Soul Lord will help you awaken. Grandpa wishes you become soul warriors." Before he finished speaking, he saw the young man's impatient gaze and quickly retreated. Everyone stands in a row. The young man's attitude towards the children is good or bad. "My name is Su Yuntao, a level 26 soul master, a martial soul lone wolf, responsible for your martial soul awakening." Zhou Hao said roast, he is really a water runner. Su Yuntao, an iron fighter, is the best NPC in the beginning and the best model worker in the fight. Su Yuntao took out 6 black round balls and 1 blue crystal ball. After arranging the 6 round balls, Su Yuntao let out a low shout, "A lone wolf, possessed." Amidst the astonished and frightened eyes of all the children, Su Yuntao's whole body turned into a wolf. He gently comforted the frightened children and said, "Come on, let's start. Carefully feel the energy deep in your body in this formation and activate it. If you awaken the beast martial soul, you can also possess it like me." The first girl, in her confusion, had a flower in her palm. "Your martial soul is sunflower, not bad. Let's see if you have soul power." Su Yuntao was surprised in his heart, which was much better than the children in Holy Soul Village, except for that monster. Tang San's figure came to his mind. The girl carefully placed her hand on the crystal ball, shining a faint light. First level soul power, can be cultivated. Next. Sheep, no soul power. Continue. Stone, next one. Soon, it was Zhou Hao's turn and he walked up with a calm expression, feeling the power hidden within his body with all his heart. Suddenly, there seemed to be a fierce roar, and an incredibly robust dark golden bear shadow appeared beside Zhou Hao. 6 black round balls trembled uncontrollably, and even the lone wolf martial soul on Su Yuntao's body became faintly visible under this powerful momentum. Su Yuntao widened his eyes and flipped through his notebook. Is this the most powerful attack-type beast soul, the dark gold terror claw bear, which is said to have disappeared and surpassed the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex? Su Yuntao was shocked in his heart and said, "Child, what is your name?" "Zhou Hao." "Come on, test your soul power." Su Yuntao quickly asked Zhou Hao to come forward, thinking to himself, as long as he has soul power, it's worth recruiting him to the martial soul hall for cultivation. He thought this year's awakening test was just a formality, but unexpectedly, 2 geniuses appeared consecutively. As Zhou Hao's palm pressed against the blue crystal, strong suction came in waves, and soul power kept flowing. The light of the crystal also became stronger, and the strong blue halo pierced everyone's eyes. It's innate soul power again. Su Yuntao couldn't care about his demeanor and looked at Zhou Hao as if he was looking at a monster. "Child, your talent is unparalleled. Would you be willing to join our martial soul hall? The martial soul hall will provide you with the best training." Su Yuntao said sincerely. Such a genius is definitely the best seedling that the martial soul hall needs, and his future achievements are limitless. "Thank you, I don't plan to join the martial soul hall now. I want to stay by Grandpa Jike's side," Zhou Hao replied politely, his eyes clear and firm. He doesn't plan to join the martial soul hall yet, there are too many restrictions, who knows where the system will allow him to sign in. Su Yuntao looked at the child and wanted him to understand the benefits of joining the martial soul hall, but obviously communication was too difficult and the child didn't understand anything. He packed his things and called Jik over to explain the situation. Jik couldn't stop smiling at the beginning and finally bent down, saying, "Thank you for coming. I want the child to follow his own wishes, and whatever he wants is fine." "Ah, forget it, this is the work student certificate from your village. Give it to this kid. There is my soul master's handprint and the official seal of the Martial Soul Hall on it, and you can study at the Junior Soul Master Academy in Nodding." Su Yuntao waved his hand and quickly left, then turned around and called out to Zhou Hao, "If you want to come find me at the Martial Soul Branch Hall in Nodding City at any time." Zhou Hao finally could clearly feel the flow of soul power inside his body. The powerful ferocious beast was sleeping in the palm of his right hand and could complete the possession at any time. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the Martial Soul Awakening and releasing the second check that I in task. Starry Forest. Reward. Strengthen the first soul ring's lifespan based on the host's physical condition. Infinite time. Zhou Hao clenched his fist and thought to himself that the system was really timely. In a few days, I will be going to the Starry Forest to hunt soul rings. Surprisingly, I happen to have posted a check that I end task for myself. His gaze turned to Jik and he said, "Grandpa, I don't want to go to school in Nodding City. I want to rely on myself." "But, child, I know you have great talent, but it's very dangerous for you to get a soul ring in the future without the help of a teacher. I heard old Jack say that only by killing soul beasts can you get a soul ring." Jik was also a bit confused. He could feel that Zhou Hao had grown up recently, but he was indeed a 6-year-old child. "Grandpa, I've decided to set off for the Starry Forest in 2 days." Zhou Hao couldn't wait in his heart. "My martial soul is very powerful, I can protect myself." While reassuring Jike, Zhou Hao planned his future itinerary. Jike looked at Zhou Hao with firm eyes and sighed. He understood that the chick would eventually leave the nest and venture into the sky. For a long time, he nodded, but still carefully put away the proof given by Su Yuntao. If Zhou Hao didn't need it, this paper would change the fate of another child at the beginning of this year's school year. Zhou Hao excitedly hugged Jike and ran home, starting to pack up his things. Jike smiled as he watched every child being picked up by his family before slowly smoking a dry cigarette and walking home. The last batch of martial soul awakening ceremonies this year have also come to an end, and the soul master realms of the two empires have gained a lot of fresh blood. In the papal palace, Bibi Dong stared coldly at Douluo and Douluo kneeling on the ground below, without saying a word. The two revered Douluo titles were sweating profusely at this moment, making them gasp for breath under the immense influence of Bibi Dong. "Say, reason." Bibi Dong's voice was devoid of any emotion. "The Pope's coronation is my subordinate's fault. In order not to startle the enemy, I explained it too simply to the people below. That's why I found a group of hammer martial souls with little soul power." Zhu Douluo knew that the old ghost had only been scolded recently, so he took on the responsibility with all his might. "Get lost, there's no need to look for Tang Hao anymore. Our sect doesn't want to see you again." Bibi paused his scepter and the two Douluo soldiers immediately retreated. At the age of only 12, Helena walked in, although her face couldn't conceal her childishness, it already had a hint of charm that captivated all living beings. "Teacher, what's wrong with Grandpa Ghost and the others?" Helena's voice was gentle and sweet, and she ran to Bibidong's side like a spoiled child. Bibidong's expression also softened. "Nana doesn't need to know, they just did something wrong." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Starry Forest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Starry Forest, Entrance to the Heavenly Dou Empire. Zhou Hao, who had been away from home for a month, chewed on roasted animal meat and looked dusty. He looked at the towering forest not far away and knew he had finally arrived at the destination of his trip. Zhou Hao couldn't help but feel a stir in his heart. He didn't expect himself to be so passionate about hunting soul rings. It only took him a month to travel, and he blamed himself for not calculating the distance and daring to wander around based on his past life memories. Fortunately, after a bumpy journey, I finally got it right. After a brief overhaul, Zhou Hao glanced at the dangerous sign at the entrance and walked into the largest soul beast forest on the Douluo Continent, spanning the two empires. Each tree is over 20 meters tall, and the air is moist and fresh. The sunlight can evenly penetrate through the gaps in the tree crown, making Zhou Hao marvel at the magic of life evolution. This is a green ocean, tangled with vines and heavily shaded by trees, as if the temperature is several degrees lower than the outside world. The roar of soul beasts could be heard from deep in the forest, as if warning outsiders. Zhou Hao took a deep breath of fresh air, his right hand's dark golden claw popped out and gently swung it out. The bushes and weeds in front of him had been instantly cleared, and the soul ring he needed to go deeper. The outer soul beasts were only 100 years old at most, which was not suitable, so he didn't want to stay here too long. As dusk approached, Zhou Hao wanted to quickly find a place to eat and rest, but a few dark green eyes were fixed on him, hanging far behind. The ghost wolf is the most common social soul beast on the outskirts of the Starry forest. The leading wolf has a strand of white hair on its forehead, which is a symbol of entering the century-old soul beast. They decided to hunt this young human, but were also wary of his sharp dark golden claws, as if planning to follow until night before attacking. Zhou Hao had already discovered the wolf pack behind him, but was too lazy to pay attention. It was nothing to clear this wolf pack, but the smell of blood would cause him great trouble. Finally, Zhou Hao found a good open space. He took out a tent and dried meat from his ring, and his soul power gathered in his hand. The dried meat quickly warmed up, took a few bites, and drank 2 more sips of water. He looked deep into the forest behind him, and the group of wolves had fierce green eyes, but they dared not approach a single penny. Zhou Hao suddenly felt a slight unease and turned his head. The forest and bushes ahead were unusually quiet, with no wind or grass moving. Until the tip of Zhou Hao's nose moved slightly, a slight fishy smell spread throughout his nostrils. Suddenly, the wind surged and a huge black figure rushed towards him. Zhou Hao had to lower his head, and the dark golden claw on his right hand swept across in an instant. A warm liquid had already dripped onto his face. Zhou Hao fixed his gaze on a black ghost tiger, with 9 purple stripes on its tail revealing 900 years of cultivation. Zhou Hao had just suffered a minor wound in its abdomen, but it was bleeding profusely, which further stimulated his ferocity. It bared its teeth and roared fiercely, its figure hidden in the black mist, then pounced again. Zhou Hao was dissatisfied in his heart. After finally resting, he had this short-sighted one to disturb him. With the tremendous power of his martial soul, the head of this 900-year-old ghost tiger was instantly smashed into the ground, deformed and concave, with 7 holes bleeding, and his muscles still trembling. A deep yellow soul ring had already floated out, waiting for traction. Obviously, the speed-type ghost tiger is not the soul ring that Zhou Hao needs, and can only wait for him to drift away on his own. The distant wolf pack has long run out of sight, and this territory belongs to this ghost tiger. There should be no other soul beasts nearby for the time being. Zhou Hao simply processed the body, removed a few pieces of meat, and put them away. He remained vigilant and meditated until dawn. Fortunately, the territory of the ghost tiger was large enough, and not many soul beasts could smell the smell of blood outside its territory. Zhou Haoshu rested comfortably all night. Eating some dried meat to eat, Zhou Hao continued on his journey. His speed had slowed down and he had arrived at the Millennium Soul Beast area. Perhaps the power-type soul beast he was looking for was nearby. Zhou Hao walked cautiously forward, his martial soul already possessed, and his dark golden claws indicated the strength of the newcomer. The pressure from the depths of his martial soul bloodline made many restless 1000-year soul beasts around him wary. Looking at a millennium-armed ape that had been watching for a long time in the distance, as well as a mandala snake disguised as a vine wrapped around a tree, Zhou Hao frowned and thought to himself that the truly powerful one had not yet arrived. There were quite a few minions coming. He took out the body of the ghost tiger from yesterday, and the bloody smell dissipated. With a roar of soul power, a monkey and a snake finally retreated in fear. Zhou Hao knew that soul beasts that have been around for thousands of years usually have preliminary intelligence, and even if attracted by the smell of blood, they will not come rashly. Unless this is its territory. Just now, Zhou Hao had already discovered a string of huge footprints on the ground. The soul beasts in this territory were likely very suitable for him. He used his terrifying claws to flatten a large stone and sat down, waiting for a rabbit. Soon, a majestic tiger roar came, indicating that the owner was extremely dissatisfied with the intruder into his territory. A huge saber-toothed tiger emerged from the forest, 2 meters high, with a cold gaze fixed on Zhou Hao. The Millennium saber-toothed tiger, with its power and attack belonging to the ceiling among soul beasts of the same level, made Zhou Hao overjoyed and finally found the soul ring he needed. The dark golden giant bear possessed the body, and its sharp and robust paws popped out. The saber-toothed tiger lowered its body and pounced fiercely, with a pair of sharp teeth shining brightly. The human in front of it felt a great threat, so the saber-toothed tiger immediately activated its innate skill. Saber teeth. During this period, it can easily bite through any hard head. Zhou Hao made an extreme turn on his side, and the foul-smelling mouth of the saber-toothed tiger missed him. However, his claws cut through his clothes. Taking advantage of the fact that it had already been depleted and new energy had not yet emerged, Zhou Hao punched with his right hand, with a heavy force. The huge blade of the soul bone in his fingers pierced through the body of the saber-toothed tiger easily. This is the terror of the dark gold claw bear, which can tear any soul beast that dares to provoke into pieces. Under the pain of eating, the saber-toothed tiger collided with a tree. When it got up, its eyes were already bloodshot. With a fierce charge, it bit down from the side wing. Zhou Hao didn't hide, but when he found Gigi, he punched the fierce beast in the jaw with a huge force, lifting it up. The dark golden light cut through the space and had already penetrated the neck of the saber-toothed tiger. A huge corpse fell to the ground, warm blood gushed out, and a purple soul ring quietly condensed. Zhou Hao let out a long sigh and finally the dust settled. It's not too late. There are no soul beasts nearby, so I need to take action quickly. Zhou Hao silently recited in his heart, sign in. Ding, check that I am successful. The first soul ring will be strengthened after the host completes absorption. Please rest assured to absorb it. Zhou Hao sat cross-legged, calm and composed. Although the system had strengthened his body, it was still not easy for him to absorb the Millennium Soul Ring at the age of 6. The purple soul ring slowly merged with Zhou Hao in the traction, seemingly accompanied by the roar of a saber-toothed tiger. However, under the intimidation of the dark gold terror claw bear, it quickly dissipated invisibly. The next step is to fully absorb and digest this massive energy. Zhou Hao carefully experienced it, slowly pulling and plucking the cocoon, gradually integrating the energy of the soul ring into his own soul power. His body felt a bit swollen and painful, but the problem was not serious. 2 hours later, Zhou Hao opened his eyes, and a brilliant purple soul ring slowly rose, emitting a fierce aura. Due to the accumulation of the previous month, Zhou Hao's soul power has directly risen to level 14, truly worthy of being a Millennium Soul Ring. Zhou Hao was satisfied with his martial soul as he looked at the nearby tree and said, the first soul skill is Blade Claw. A huge dark golden claw spanning 3 meters, with an imperceptible layer of white light attached. In the blink of an eye, the big tree embraced by the three had already been divided into several sections. The first soul skill can attach special effects to attacks, reaching the edge of the blade. Unstoppable. The 1300-year sword-toothed tiger soul ring, with the improvement of the system, has reached the limit value of 1800 years, and the soul bone of the right arm is much stronger than before, with a lifespan of 5000 years. Zhou Hao arrived at a small stream and found that he seemed to have grown taller and had a more handsome appearance than before. Open the system panel. Host. Zhou Hao Realm. 14th level Soul Warrior. Martial Soul. Dark Gold Claw Bear, upgraded once. Soul Bone. 5,000-year-old Dark Gold Terror Claw, external Soul Bone. Soul Guide. Storage Ring. Zhou Hao thought to himself that Tang-san had just finished hunting the mandala snake. You can first go back to Notting City to register as a Soul Master, then go back to the village to report safety to Grandpa Jik, and then you can go out and explore. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao couldn't help but think of the mysterious Pope he had never met before, how wonderful the Martial Soul Hall was. Unconditional welfare benefits and the peerless appearance of the Pope. Unfortunately, the Martial Soul Hall is not suitable for oneself at the moment. Zhou Hao waited until he had fully adapted to the increase in soul power before walking out of the forest. As for the depths and even the core circle, as well as the existence he couldn't afford to provoke, whether it was the azure bull python and titan ape, or the several unborn ferocious beasts, they were not something he could provoke now. When he became stronger in the future, he could naturally communicate with them. Walking out in one breath, Zhou Hao truly regained the warm feeling of sunlight shining on his body. Depart and return to Notting City. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Sign in to Shrek College, goodbye Tang-san. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Sign into Shrek College, goodbye Tang-san. Time flies, 5 years pass by in a hurry. When Zhou Hao returned to Notting City, Tang-san had already gone to the Junior Soul Master Academy to practice, and he should have successfully become a disciple of Yu Shaojiang. He returned to Qingshi village, where the only girl with soul power, the martial soul of Sunflower, was also sent to the academy by Jike. Now Zhou Hao's cultivation level is level 32 of the War Soul Zune. The 3 purple soul rings are enough to amaze anyone, especially the last third soul ring, which has a hint of ink on it. However, he used the system's check that in reward to conceal the color of the soul ring, turning it into 2 yellow and 1 purple. A few days ago, Zhou Hao was participating in his Gold Soul Emblem promotion battle at the Soto arena when the system's sound system suddenly sounded. World anchor detected. Shrek Academy. Sign in reward. Martial Soul upgrade once, Soul Power upgrade 3 levels. Zhou Hao suddenly became excited, and his opponent was inexplicably stunned by Bear Claw. The battle quickly ended. In the admiration of the front desk lady, Zhou Hao put the golden soul emblem into his ring, rested for a while, and then went to Shrek Academy to register. A few days later, on the outskirts of the south gate of Soto City, there was a small village with over 100 households. A long line of people lined up at the entrance, and a sunny and handsome young man was among them. His calm and introverted temperament was like a bright moon to fireflies in the crowd. His figure is extremely tall, almost 1.8 meters tall, which is very different from his age of 12. Although he is covered by clothes, he cannot conceal the distinct muscle lines. His calm appearance seems to hide strong explosive power, but he is not the kind of big guy. Looking at the tattered Shrek sign on the wooden arch at the entrance of the village, Zhou Hao had a hint of anticipation in his heart. This enrollment should happen to be the batch reported by the Shrek 7 monsters. I don't know when Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong will come. In his past life, he had a crush on Zhu Zhuqing, a cold and strong girl. Ning Rongrong later became very good, and Zhou Hao also envied her love with Oscar. Did lovers eventually get married? And Xiaowu and Tang San are bound, unless he goes to the Soul Master Academy to separate them from the beginning. Zhou Hao is not willing to do such a thing. For Dai Mubai, Zhou Hao looked down upon him from the bottom of his heart. As a man, he couldn't bear the burden on himself and went to other places to indulge in extravagance and drunkenness, completely abandoning everything. It wasn't until the girl with a grudge chased after him that he was moved by her beauty and willing to work hard. Zhou Hao withdrew his thoughts and saw a sudden commotion ahead, as if there were sounds of arguments coming. My child is a top student at Soto Junior Soul Master Academy, why don't you accept him? The registration requirements are very clear. We Shrek only recruit small monsters. Those over 12 years old and with soul power below level 20.1 will not be recorded. Then refund the money. The tuition fee is in the cabinet, and if you hit him, you will receive the full amount. The old man in charge of registration held a long stick, white, yellow, purple, and black, and 6 soul rings rose from his feet. The brilliant light caught the attention of everyone present. The Soul Emperor's powerful figure leisurely pointed to a young man next to him with eager golden hair and abnormal pupils, who was Dai Mubai. The parents who caused trouble were stunned and fled with their children in a disheveled manner. Some people in the queue kept bowing their heads and leaving. The Soul Emperor was strong enough to make most people put aside their other thoughts, so it was soon Zhou Hao's turn. Zhou Hao, feeling a bit sore, handed the old man 10 golden soul coins and walked closer. Name: Zhou Hao. Put your hand over. Zhou Hao reached out to the old man, knowing that this was to test bone age. The old man touched his hand twice, looked up in confusion, and looked at Zhou Hao strangely. Do you have any problems with your hands? Have you practiced it? Zhou Hao smiled, lightly gripping his palm, his dark golden sharpness swallowed, and the old man's expression had already become surprised. Is it a soul bone or has it been practiced? It's just a matter of martial soul. I've practiced it before. Why, aren't you only recruiting monsters? The old man exclaimed and envied in his heart, saying, lift your leg up. He touched Zhou Hao's leg for a while until he felt a little uncomfortable before finally stopping. After confirming again and again, the old man leaned back into his chair and half squinted his eyes. Alright, 12 years old is not bad, let's release the martial soul. Dai Mubai, who was standing beside him, also looked over curiously. He could feel that this handsome young man was very strong. Zhou Hao took a few steps back, his soul power slightly stimulating him. Zhou Hao, level 32 strong attack series soul warrior, please advise. Dark gold terror claw bear, possessed. His majestic arms instantly filled his sleeves, and his dark golden hair exuded an incredibly dangerous aura. With a pair of equally dark golden claws, his sharpness seemed to tear everything apart. Dai Mubai's tongue twitched as he felt the suppression from the level of martial soul. This bear-like martial soul, who doesn't know what it is, can even surpass its evil eyes and white tiger. Even Principal Zhao's powerful diamond bear has a quality inferior to itself. The old man finally couldn't sit still and said, the dark gold terror claw bear. He had known Zhao Wuji for many years and had heard him talk about how in ancient times, soul masters who possessed the dark gold terror claw bear's martial soul were often synonymous with the peak of attack, strength, and defense. This terrifying martial soul disappeared due to the difficulty of inheritance, but now it has reappeared before his eyes. After being possessed by the martial soul, Zhou Hao's face became a bit more rough. With the dangerous dark golden light around him, several dazzling soul rings slowly rose from his feet. He still chose to cover up and expose everything in front of unfamiliar people, which was a very irrational behavior. The 3 yellow and purple soul rings almost amazed everyone. The magnificent and noble purple even caused the old man and Dai Mubai beside him to briefly lose consciousness. The old man's expression was so shocked that it was beyond measure. This scene refreshed his understanding for more than 60 years. Monsters, this is the real monster. In his heart, Zhou Hao in front of him had already equated with the monster. This is a 12-year-old soul lord. The 12-year-old soul lord with the best ratio of the 3 rings. Too shocking and shocking. The geniuses of the various junior colleges behind them were filled with incredible surprises in their hearts. Each of them is a top performer from all over the world, but at this moment they have become a background. Alright, you passed. Zhou Hao's face remained calm as he walked towards the village. Dai Mubai waved and said, "Brother, come to me. I will take the new students who have passed to participate in the test later." Dai Mubai walked over quickly and patted Zhou Hao's shoulder, saying, "You're very strong, you're a monster. Welcome to Shrek." Thank you." Due to his inner aversion to Dai Mubai, Zhou Hao didn't express anything. Dai Mubai couldn't understand Zhou Hao's temperament and didn't say much. He always maintained sufficient respect for the strong. As the teenagers left disappointed one by one, Zhou Hao saw a pair of tall young boys and girls. The boy was dressed in blue and had a belt adorned with jade and stones around his waist. He had an ordinary appearance but was very durable. His deep eyes flashed with a faint purple light. Looking at the girl in pink next to her, her eyes were full of indulgence, and a faint smile remained on her lips. Although Tang San grew taller, the familiarity between his eyebrows and eyes still made Zhou Hao recognize him at a glance. The girl appeared very lively, with her long black hair arranged into neat scorpion braids that hung down to her calves. Her pink clothes tightly wrapped around her already developing body. The slender waist of the young man is tightly grasped, extremely cute. Zhou Hao couldn't help but feel a bit stunned, truly a little dance. But he instantly withdrew his gaze and stopped looking further. But Xiaowu noticed Zhou Hao's gaze and pouted in dissatisfaction. "What's wrong?" "Xiaowu." "Humph, dang Tuzi." Tang San followed Xiaowu's gaze and was surprised to find that Zhou Hao was there, along with Dai Mubai whom he had met before. "He is a friend from our neighboring village, he is very good. Don't misunderstand him." Tang San smiled slightly and nodded to Zhou Hao. "Brother, he looks like he's with Dai Mubai. He seems to be very strong now, not weaker than Dai Mubai, and he doesn't know where he has gone in the past few years." Tang San shook his head and said to Xiaowu. At this moment, Zhou Hao noticed that the first one was a stunning young girl, with fair and delicate skin. In the old man's uncertain expression, he withdrew the hand he handed out. She was wearing a simple white long dress, with short hair that was neat. The girl casually handed a bag of golden soul coins to the old man and said, "May I ask, did I pass the initial test?" Her voice was soft and melodious, soft, making her feel a bit soft. Zhou Hao turned his head and saw Dai Mubai's gaze fixed on the prey, feeling disdainful in his heart. The surprised expression on the old man's face gradually narrowed, and he frowned and said, "Do your family know that you're here? I already meet your requirements, don't I? It's said that there's no reason not to accept me, right?" The girl smiled brightly, her watery eyes like stars in the night sky. Zhou Hao finally confirmed that this is Ning Rongrong. The old man smiled helplessly and said, "Mu Bai, take her in later." Dai Mu Bai withdrew his gaze and regained his cold expression. When Tang San and Xiaowu passed the initial test amidst a crowd of surprised voices, the old man muttered, "Why are there so many little monsters this year?" Zhou Hao and his companions greeted Tang San Xiaowu with a smile. Dai Mubai and Tang San had already met before. Tang San came up and patted Zhou Hao's shoulder, saying, "Zhou Hao, it's been a long time since we last met. Why did you leave without saying goodbye?" Tang San has always been a very lonely person, at least until Xiaowu appeared. Zhou Hao is one of his few childhood friends. Dai Mubai was a bit surprised and said, "Tang San, do you know Zhou Hao?" "Well, Zhou Hao is from our neighboring village and we have a good relationship." "Xiao San, it seems like you've been doing well these past few years. You've become much stronger, and your girlfriend has also been arranged." Zhou Hao smiled and nodded at Dai Mubai, teasing Tang San. "Xiao Hao, Xiaowu is my sister." Tang San quickly clarified, and Xiaowu's face turned slightly red. When he heard Tang San speak, he gave him a dissatisfied look. Everyone, including Ning Rongrong, laughed and said, "Hello sister. Let's go, mistress, I'll take you into the village." Dai Mubai smiled, knowing that it might only be these people today, but he accidentally saw something in his eyes became serious. Zhou Hao instinctively followed his gaze and saw a young girl dressed in black. Her face is slightly low, with long black hair draped over her shoulders, and her limbs are symmetrical and beautiful. Her well-developed figure does not match her delicate and youthful appearance. Her expression was very cold, a coldness that came from the depths of her heart and temperament. The black eyes are very pure and cold, without any vitality. Cold to the point of heartache. Zhou Hao's gaze was immediately drawn, this is Zhu Zhuqing. Dai Mubai only felt puzzled in his heart and did not recognize it for the time being. Shaking his head, Dai Mubai didn't say much and walked in with the crowd. You are here for the second assessment, and I will continue to pick up people outside. There will be a teacher who will tell you how to do it. Dai Mubai said and left in a hurry, looking a bit anxious. Zhou Hao knew that this ring was a soul power test, and with the strength of his soul master, he could directly participate in the final trial. Tang San chatted with Xiao Wu and Ning Rongrong for a while, and just as he was about to queue up, he suddenly heard a soft voice behind him. Selling sausages, delicious and affordable big sausages, only 5 copper coins, at a fair price, fair to all. Zhou Hao couldn't help but smile. Uncle Sausage, Oscar has finally come out. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Sausage Monopoly, Oscar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Sausage Monopoly, Oscar. Zhou Hao turned around and saw this bearded uncle, pushing a small car for sale. He was wearing a simple grey cloth coat, with beautiful peach blossom eyes and a dragging beard in stark contrast. Oscar's soul curse may be a bit disgusting, but his martial soul is definitely a first-class food-type martial soul, and the sausages he creates have a very good effect. Zhou Hao has been wandering alone on the mainland for several years, and he is more aware of the importance of excellent auxiliary soul masters in the team. And he admires Oscar very much. He is emotionally focused, hardworking and strong, principled, and has great talent. His ability to become a god is not due to luck. Looking at Oscar with a scruffy beard, Zhou Hao had a teasing thought. Uncle, 2 sausages, please. Oscar, pushing the cart, was struggling to sell when he heard the sound of uncle. His body was visibly pounded, as if he had been hit hard. Oscar walked over with a stiff expression as he pushed the car and said, Brother, what do you call me? Uncle, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Zhou Hao forced a smile and pretended to be serious. What uncle? I'm not an uncle, I'm only 14 years old. Oscar smiled bitterly. Tang San, Xiao Wu, and Ning Rongrong looked over curiously and didn't quite believe what Oscar said. Uncle, you're almost at the age of holding a grandson, and you're still saying you're 14. Zhou Hao continued to stimulate him. Brother, I'm really only 14, I'm your senior. Really, no mistake, it's absolutely true. You'll know when Boss Dai comes soon. Seeing Zhou Hao and the others seem to believe it, Oscar continued, Brother, do you still want sausages? Yes, if you want this sausage to be cooked, I definitely want it. Oscar was overjoyed. In the past, there were not many people in the village, and the sausages couldn't be sold at all. As a result, a lot of them have already been sold today. Handing out 2 steaming sausages, Oscar smiled and said, 10 copper coins, welcome back next time. Zhou Hao directly took out a silver coin and took it over. Xiao Wu beside him sniffed and pulled Tang San, saying, Brother, I also want to eat. We didn't have much breakfast today. Tang San has no second thoughts, and besides, this sausage smells very good and is also very affordable. Tang Sangang has just paid and is preparing to take the sausage. Oscar, what are you doing? Dai Mubai's voice had already been heard. The sausage that was delivered halfway disappeared instantly. Zhou Hao was eating sausages attentively on the side, feeling the benefits. Dai Mubai walked quickly, followed by Zhu Zhuqing with a cold expression. Xiao Ao, why did you come out to sell sausages again? Dai Mubai couldn't help but gasp. Boss Dai, come out and earn some money, don't be cold. Get lost. Dai Mubai, what's wrong? Is there a problem with the sausages? Tang San looked puzzled and then looked at Zhou Hao, who was about to finish eating. Dai Mubai's face was strange. This sausage cannot be eaten. Why? Tang San became confused, and Xiao Wu looked over curiously. Dai Mubai looked at Oscar and said, you can get another sausage out. Boss, the new people are all here, please give me some face. Hurry up, otherwise we'll practice more this afternoon, Dai Mubai smiled kindly. Oscar helplessly said, I have roots. I saw him holding his hands weakly, with a lewd posture, and a steaming big sausage had already appeared. Tang San was completely confused, he was a bit angry. Xiao Wu's pretty face turned red, all the way to the base of her ears, and she hid behind Tang San, saying, nausea, it's necrotic. Tang San thought to himself, fortunately Dai Mubai came in time. And Zhu Zhuqing coldly glanced back and then moved his gaze away. On the contrary, Ning Rongrong, although feeling nauseous, was more curious. Xiao Ao's martial soul is sausages. Including him and me, there are currently only 3 students in the academy. His sausages have a good effect, but the soul curse is a bit disgusting. I'm afraid you couldn't bear it, so I stopped them. Suddenly, Dai Mubai noticed that everyone's gaze was on Zhou Hao not far away, who was enjoying his last breath of sausages. What's going on? Is something up? The assessment has started. Zhou Hao wiped his mouth with satisfaction and walked over. Everyone was holding back their laughter and not speaking, even Zhu Zhuqing's eyes had a hint of a smile. Good brother, in the future, Oscar's sausages will always be the first to serve you. Oscar was deeply moved and said, after eating my sausages, I'm sure you'll pass the final assessment. Do you want to have another one? Brother Zhou Hao is a true 3-ring soul lord. With just your little efficacy, they really don't appreciate it. Dai Mubai looked at Zhou Hao and patted Oscar's shoulder. San Juan, the soul lord who is the same age as me. Tang San looked at Zhou Hao differently. When he first met, he thought Zhou Hao was very strong. Now, as expected, his strength is comparable to that of Dai Mubai. I'm not necessarily his opponent. Dai Mubai's words were once again astonishing. Although he admitted that this newcomer was stronger than himself and felt uncomfortable, after all, he had been with Shrek for so long and learned more from his mentor's guidance. Everyone's eyes were even more surprised, and Zhu Zhu's beautiful eyes came over, showing strong curiosity and longing. Xiao Wu and Tang San were also a bit stunned, and Oscar's eyes lit up. He came over and hugged Zhou Hao's arm, saying, good brother, you can cover me in the future. You can eat my sausage as you please. Zhou Hao initially noticed Zhu Zhuqing's gaze and felt a bit proud, but now Oscar's words made him clever and a little chilly. Although Oscar looks okay and has a soft voice, he is still a man. Only Ning Rongrong among the 3 young girls could sense something was wrong with Oscar's words and spit out his tongue. Alright, everyone come with me. Just now, Teacher Li Yusong said that your strength can easily pass the subsequent assessment. Everyone, come with me for the final trial. After speaking, Dai Mubai came to the teacher in charge of the 2nd level and whispered, pointing to Zhou Hao and others. The teacher looked over in surprise and said, there are so many little monsters this year. You can take them to the 4th level. I hope we can be more lively here this year. Dai Mubai and Zhou Hao just raised their feet, and the candidates in the queue behind them couldn't bear to watch anymore. Teacher, please tell us what's going on. Why are they exempt from the exam and going to the 4th level, while we have to pass the 1st level of assessment? The teacher's face remained calm and said, sure, if your soul power exceeds level 25, you can go with them. Those who have reached this stage are all geniuses under the age of 13, with soul power around level 21. They simply do not believe that a full 5 people can have soul power above level 25. This is impossible, we are all 12 years old. How could they have such high soul power? Dai Mubai spoke up and said, you must be foolish in your junior college. This is Shrek. If you are weak, don't doubt that others are as weak as you. With a cold snort, he took out a white crystal ball and said, Third, please open your eyes to them. The color of the test crystal varies depending on its level. This white crystal is specifically designed for soul power testing by great soul masters. If there is soul power exceeding level 30, the crystal will burst directly. Tang San remained silent, and the internal power of Xiantian Gong was infused into it. The white crystal instantly shone like a diamond, with a strong light covering almost every inch of the crystal. This was clearly a symbol of entering level 30, and the following dance was no exception. The mouths of other candidates were completely blocked. Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing also stepped forward, both of whom were first-class beauties with completely different temperaments. Ning Rongrong's skin is extremely fair and charming, with a dusty and elegant temperament, giving people a feeling of basking in spring breeze. It looks like a noblewoman with higher education no matter what. And Zhu Zhuqing's every move is extremely agile, walking silently, and her temperament of being like an iceberg and not being close to people is also fascinating. Ning Rongrong gently took the crystal from Xiao Wu's hand, and although the bright white light was not strong, it was still at level 26. A hint of pride flashed in her eyes. In the next moment, the crystal in her hand was gone, and a figure appeared silently beside her. The bright white light flickered again, reaching a level of 27, and it was Zhu Zhuqing. All the candidates fell silent, their genius level shattered their pride, and it was indeed Monster Academy. Zhou Hao watched Zhu Zhuqing's beautiful and quiet posture from the side, and his heart grew even more fond of it. Dai Mubai also looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a complex expression, and he had already recognized the young girl as his fiancée A.E. whom he had never met before. He respectfully agreed to the teacher and turned around to walk. And he hasn't tested yet. The students who were hit seemed to grab a life-saving straw and looked at Zhou Hao. They saw that Zhou Hao had no intention of testing. His strength is definitely problematic. Dai Mubai's eyes showed a mocking expression as he looked at the leading boy and handed the crystal ball to Zhou Hao. I don't need to test it, this thing is quite expensive, Zhou Hao smiled helplessly. I broke it, and 2 gold coins are gone. Seeing Zhou Hao refusing to take the test for a long time, the other candidates became increasingly angry and shouted unfairly. Zhou Hao's anger surged, and he walked forward with a sneer. A terrifying dark golden bear shadow appeared behind him, and 3 soul rings, yellow, and purple, rose from his feet. Shut up. With a light swing of the right palm, the dim light intertwined, and 5 deep scratches on the ground were shocking. The leading candidates were so frightened that they collapsed to the ground. They thought they were going through the back door, but they didn't realize that they were already an unattainable existence. They didn't dare to test, but rather disdained it. The strong didn't need to show their strength to the ants. Zhou Hao walked back calmly and said to Dai Mubai with a smile, it's solved. Let's go. Brother, how did you cultivate yourself? You're only 12 years old. Dai Mubai asked curiously. It's nothing, if you have innate soul power, you should be similar to me, just like Tang San, Zhou Hao chuckled lightly. I'll tell you, your martial soul is not inferior to your innate soul power, Dai Mubai said with a smile. Zhu Zhuqing quietly followed behind the team, her gaze fixed on Zhou Hao. Her heart was deeply moved, and there was already some admiration in her eyes, of course, for her strength. Tang San was puzzled and said, Zhou Hao, my teacher has been researching martial souls for many years. The age of a person's 3rd soul ring cannot exceed 2,000 years, and the limit is around 1,800 years. But it seems that your 3rd soul ring is already close to 10,000 years old. Tang San's words once again surprised everyone and left them in a state of shock. Your teacher's research should have analyzed the physical fitness of most people, but what was my physical fitness like when I was a child? Zhou Hao replied with a smile. He understood that Tang San had a strong belief in Yu Shaojiang's various theories, so it was a bit difficult to accept. Tang San nodded, no longer asking further questions, and began to ponder on his own. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Immovable Ming King Zhao Wuji. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Immovable Ming King Zhao Wuji. As he gradually delved deeper into the college, Dai Mubai also began to introduce some of the history of Shrek College. Shrek College has admitted a total of 62 students, but only 14 of them have truly met the graduation standards. This year, our college has the most students. Tang San and Xiao Wu looked around, both of them coming out of the junior college, surprised by the outdated facilities and the scarcity of students here. Zhou Hao calmed down a lot, and almost all the main storylines of Douluo Continent were in his mind, not feeling strange at all. On the contrary, Frand's education that only admits elites is still effective and does not conflict with the training model of ordinary colleges. It can also screen out truly promising soul masters, but with the conditions of the college, it is still difficult to cultivate a genius well. Is it still possible to maintain such a small number of students in the school? Tang San asked curiously. If it weren't for you, we might have been the last batch of students in the college, Dai Mubai said with a respectful expression. The dean once said that Shrek only accepts monsters and would rather be lacking than overusing them. After walking for a while, Dai Mubai took several people to an open space. Not far away is a strong man in his 50s, dozing off on a lounge chair. Teacher Zhao, I have brought my students to participate in the 4th level assessment. So many little monsters have come this year. Teacher Zhao, with a scruffy beard, opened his sleepy eyes and looked at the 5 people in front of him in surprise, a bit unbelievable. They all passed without taking the exam. Dai Mubai added, which surprised Teacher Zhao even more. He stood up, his body extremely broad and majestic, and his height was not prominent, only about 1.7 meters. However, his muscles were cast like steel, giving people a strong sense of oppression invisibly. Little monsters, today's assessment will be personally conducted by me. My name is Zhao Wuji, the Deputy Dean of Shrek. Now, I will give you a moment of incense to get to know each other. Afterwards, the 5 of you will work together under my command for half an hour. As long as one person can persist until the end, even if you pass the level. Don't think of taking shortcuts, everything is empty talk in the face of absolute strength. Zhao Wuji's face was fierce, but he looked at the children in front of him gently, hoping they would give him a surprise. Collaborating with each other is your only opportunity, he added, returning to the lounge chair and continuing to close his eyes to rest. Tang San and others didn't find it strange, but Dai Mubai looked solemn and said, everyone, come over here. I used to be the one to conduct assessments, but who knew that Teacher Zhao suddenly became interested today and wanted to personally assess. You guys are not doing well. What's wrong? We're all 5 of us going up together. Even if he's a Soul Emperor powerhouse, he can still hold on, Xiao Wu said inexplicably. He is the Soul Saint. Zhou Hao corrected beside him. Dai Mubai looked at Zhou Hao in surprise and said, not bad, Teacher Zhao is a Soul Saint at level 76. His martial soul is a powerful diamond bear with extremely strong defense. His first 4 soul rings are 2 yellow and 2 purple, and the last 3 are the most powerful black eternal soul rings. His strength is definitely beyond your imagination. The pupils of Tang San and his companions almost shrank at the same time, and their hearts were filled with shock. With a terrifying cultivation level of 76, they could almost break free from the army of 10,000 people with their own strength. That was a legendary existence, but now it was right in front of them. Teacher Zhao once dominated the Soul Master realm and was known as the Immortal King. Almost no one could break through his defense, and his attack methods were extremely terrifying. Forget it, let's not talk about it. First, let's introduce your own situation, and then I will tell you about Teacher Zhao's abilities and develop a combat plan. Tang San, a 29-level control-level soul master with a martial soul of blue-silver grass. Xiao Wu, a 29-level sensitive attack-type soul master, and a martial soul soft-bone rabbit. Zhu Qing, a 27-level sensitive attack-type soul master and a martial soul ghost spirit cat, she said indifferently. Ning Rongrong hesitated a bit and said, Ning Rongrong, a level 26 auxiliary weapon soul master, and the 7 treasures of the martial soul glass pagoda. Tang San, Dai Mubai, and Zhu Qing looked over curiously and said, are you a direct descendant of the 7 treasures glass sect? Oh my, I sneaked out, so don't worry so much, I'm fine. Ning Rongrong stuck out his small tongue, feeling embarrassed. Zhou Hao continued, Zhou Hao, the dark gold claw bear of the martial soul, the 32-level strong attack warrior soul Zun. He glanced at Zhu Qing with a burning gaze, and the opponent instantly turned his head. Tang San seemed to want to express his thoughts, but Zhou Hao said, we don't have many choices. Just find a good position and maximize our abilities. Leave the main attacking position to me, and Ning Rongrong will be responsible for supporting her. Tang San, your blue-silver grass can be coordinated in the center and responsible for protecting her. Xiao Wu, you and Zhu Qing are waiting on the wings. Zhou Hao unconsciously didn't use the surname Zhu Qing in his words. He felt a tightness in his heart and said, oh no, it's too abrupt. Dai Mubai had already looked over and was somewhat unhappy, but Zhu Qing didn't express anything. Zhou Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Dai Mubai's attitude was irrelevant, and what he cared about was Zhu Qing. Everyone's plans were almost the same, and Zhao Wuji stood up and began to move his muscles and bones. He smiled and said, little monsters, are you ready? Don't grind around. Teacher Zhao, we can start now, Dai Mubai confirmed with Zhou Hao and others before saying to Zhao Wuji. Then he stepped aside and prepared to observe. As a strong attack-type soul master, Zhao Wuji's battles always benefited him greatly, and there was also an ignorant Zhou Hao. Zhao Wuji twisted his neck, and as his wrist flipped, the sound of his bones added some pressure. He looked up at the 5 people across from him, with a hint of solemnity in his eyes. 7 treasures turn out with glass. Ning Rongrong's body spun lightly, and the colorful light was released. A crystal-clear colorful pagoda has emerged in my palm. The elegant and noble temperament is accompanied by the sparkling treasure light, and 2 yellow soul rings quietly circle around her. 7 treasures are famous, one is called strength. The first soul ring shone brightly, and 3 streams of light flew out from her fingertips. They entered the bodies of Zhou Hao, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Qing respectively. Surprisingly, a little girl from the 7 treasures glass sect came. Ha ha ha, Frand has a headache. Zhao Wuji burst out laughing and looked across from him. Zhou Hao stomped and the 3 dazzling and best-matched soul rings rose in Zhao Wuji's surprised expression, and the dark gold terror claw bear had already possessed it. Dark gold terror claw bear. Zhao Wuji instantly felt the suppression from his martial soul bloodline, which made him feel very uncomfortable. There were also 3 soul rings, which were unreasonable for a 12-year-old child. Damn it, this is a real monster. Zhao Wuji pursed his lips and looked serious. Zhou Hao felt the increasing power filling his body, and a terrifying dark golden claw instantly popped out. The first soul ring shone, carrying a white light and slashing towards Zhao Wuji. At the same time, Xiao Wu took off with the help of Tang San's palms and charged towards Zhao Wuji's head with agility and agility. Zhao Wuji let out a cold snort, his right foot slammed to the ground, and his palm, like a fan, was covered in a thick layer of brown hair, firmly catching Zhou Hao's frontal attack. He didn't originally plan to activate the martial soul immediately, but Zhou Hao's attack was too fierce, and he was feeling a bit uncertain in his heart. Taking this opportunity, Xiao Wu threw her long scorpion braid around Zhao Wuji's neck, and her soul ring shone. Her first soul skill was the waist bow. Zhao Wuji was about to exert his strength, but he only managed to shake back Zhou Hao in time. Tang San's blue-silver grass had already trapped his feet, and he was so careless that he couldn't take over. He had already risen into the air, and Xiao Wu's jutsu was fully unleashed. In an instant, Zhao Wuji fell head down into the soil. Zhu Zhuqing hesitated for a moment as he walked behind him, but in the next moment, Zhao Wuji's whole body was shining with golden light, covered in brown bear fur, and 7 soul rings swirled around his body, yellow, purple, black, and black. He stood up, and the first soul ring shone brightly. Not moving the body of the Ming king. Activate. Zhu Zhuqing's gaze was cold, her soul ring shimmered, and a ghostly sting had already struck from behind. With Ning Rongrong's blessing, she was like a shadow, like an elegant and agile black spirit cat, with its cold and piercing claws instantly piercing the vital points. Zhao Wuji smiled faintly and ignored the attack behind him. Such a level of attack could not break through the defense. Zhao Wuji exerted his strength with both arms, leaped up, and fiercely smashed towards the center of the formation. At the same time, the 4th soul ring shone, and gravity increased and activated. Tang San was suddenly suppressed by gravity and had to use ghost shadows to evade, while Ning Rongrong behind him was at a loss. Upon seeing this, Tang San quickly wrapped a piece of blue-silver grass around her waist, lifted it in the air, and managed to avoid the disaster. Zhou Hao knew he had to use all his strength. The strong dark golden light on his right arm surged, and his second soul skill was launched. Shadow of Dark Gold. Lasting for a quarter of an hour, the attack power doubles, accompanied by a second attack that weakens by 20%, from the splitting shadow beast that has been around 6,000 years. Zhao Wuji felt a chill coming from behind and turned around to clap his second soul skill. The powerful diamond palm. But his arms became numb, and countless vines wrapped around his hands. It was Tang San who seized the opportunity to launch the parasite. Zhao Wuji could only resist Zhou Hao's blow with force. At this moment, Xiao Wu's eyes suddenly turned blood red and she looked straight at Zhao Wuji. With her second soul skill, she unleashed her charm. Zhao Wuji was attacked both inside and outside, and shouted loudly. Xiao Wu was instantly backlash, her face like golden paper. Tang San quickly went over to catch her, with a hint of anger in his eyes. Zhou Hao's strongest strike struck, followed closely by Zhu Zhuqing, and the Netherworld's 100 Claws attacked with all their might towards various vital points. Ning Rongrong escaped danger and fully released the growth rate as soon as possible, but Zhao Wuji seems to have been forced into a desperate situation. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Cooperation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Cooperation. Zhao Wuji remained calm and composed, with a hint of mockery in his eyes. The pitch-black 5th soul ring suddenly shone, squeezed by gravity. Everyone around suddenly felt extremely heavy, as if sinking into a swamp. Zhu Zhuqing, who was lightweight, was directly pressed to the ground. Zhou Hao's powerful attack also plunged into the void. Zhao Wuji chuckled and casually broke free from Tang San's blue-silver grass, saying, "Little ones, it's still early. Let's continue playing." Tang San carried the injured Xiao Wu outside the stage. Zhou Hao looked at Zhu Zhuqing, who had fallen to the ground and lost his strength. It was obvious that Ning Rongrong in the distance had already exhausted his soul power. "Teacher Zhao, let Tang San and I continue and let the 3 of them rest." Zhou Hao confirmed with Tang San's gaze and said to Zhao Wuji. He picked up Zhu Zhuqing from Dai Mubai's angry gaze and walked towards Ning Rongrong. The girl's body was light and soft, with a hint of floral fragrance. Zhu Zhuqing slowly woke up and realized that he was actually in Zhou Hao's arms. He was very ashamed and angry for a moment, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. His fingertips and claws were about to pierce his throat. But when she looked up, she saw Zhou Hao with a gentle smile, his handsome and strong face making people feel a bit shy. "You rest well, let me handle the rest." Zhou Hao placed Zhu Zhuqing next to Ning Rongrong, turned around, and a fierce bear figure emerged behind him, leaving behind a not wide but solid figure. Zhu Zhuqing sat cross-legged, coldly glancing at Dai Mubai, who was angry and restless. Her snow-white and delicate neck was slightly red, and she seemed to be able to feel the powerful heartbeat of Zhou Hao's chest. Originally in the prime of love, but due to the royal family's bullshit rules, she came across mountains and seas to find Dai Mubai, a promiscuous person she had never met before. She just wanted to live a good life. Zhou Hao and Tang San exchanged a glance, without any worries, as if they could both let go of their hands and feet. Tang San's Xiantian Gong was fully utilized, with his jade-colored palm touching his waist and a cold light reaching towards Zhao Wuji. Zhou Hao laughed heartily, calling out to the system and silently reciting check.in. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the check.in. Reward 3rd level soul power and improve the quality of the martial soul. Reward release in progress. Zhou Hao's aura instantly surged, and his soul power had reached level 35. His dark golden hair seemed to have added a layer of metallic texture, and a roar seemed to come from an ancient giant beast. The majestic bear shadow ruled the world, and for a moment, a wave of worship came from Zhao Wuji's heart. Zhou Hao's martial soul has evolved to the ultimate level of the dark gold terror claw bear, no less than the 400,000-year-old bear lord beside Emperor Tian. Zhao Wuji let out a furious shout, and the black soul ring ranked 6th, with a strong dark light, roared vigorously at the Diamond King and activated it. The powerful soul power merged into a strong roar, and the huge terrifying sound directly destroyed a wooden house outside the field. Tang San quickly hung himself on a tree with blue-silver grass. However, Zhou Hao was not affected, and Zhao Wuji kept his hand. Otherwise, with this blow, Tang San might have been instantly killed. Tang Sanxiang endured a mouthful of blood. Fortunately Xiantian Gong automatically protected his master, otherwise he would have lost his combat power. On the front, there was only Zhou Hao left, and Zhao Wuji stared at him. "Your martial soul is very good, but you are still a little ghost after all, ahaha. Come on." Zhou Hao's 3rd soul ring finally shone, and the dark gold ruled. "This is Zhou Hao's trump card." A dark golden light flashed over the entire area. Within this range, Zhou Hao's soul power recovery will increase by 100%, and his defense and attack will be greatly improved. At the same time, his opponent's attack will be reduced by 10%, and his own defense will also be reduced by 10%. This soul ring comes from a dark crystal beast that is about to break through the level of 10,000 years. This rare soul beast is born in the realm and has extremely strong strength. The dark gold terror claw was released with all its strength, and a terrifying shadow that was 5 meters long pierced through the space. Zhao Wuji remained motionless, and his body lit up again. However, Zhou Hao kept moving forward, and behind him, there were constant sounds of breaking through the air. He knew it was Tang San's hidden weapon, and his body was just enough to interfere with Zhao Wuji's vision. Zhao Wuji was extremely surprised in his heart. What kind of ability was this? It had achieved similar effects in the field with a Millennium Soul Ring, and his movements were somewhat delayed for a moment. Sure enough, Zhao Wuji chose to defend and was covered in golden light due to his inability to exert all his strength. However, Tang San's hidden weapon was specifically designed to break through the protective energy of his body. At the moment when Zhou Hao arrived, 2 bone-piercing nails flickered with cold light quietly passed by, and Zhao Wuji's protective golden light shattered. If Zhou Hao took this claw, he would definitely see blood. Zhao Wuji was helpless, and his body suddenly expanded rapidly. The 7th soul ring finally shone, and his martial soul true body was a powerful diamond bear. His height rapidly expanded, transforming him into a 5-meter-tall bear on his shoulders, with golden light flowing on his brown hair. He lowered his head and looked down at the small two of them, lightly lifting his front paws to withstand Zhou Hao's full blow, but still leaving deep marks. Not far from the principal's office, a middle-aged man with a hooked nose and black-framed crystal glasses was drinking tea. Feeling the excitement of the assessment, he couldn't help but be surprised and said, "That old Zhao kid, ha ha ha, looks like this year's little monster is quite powerful. His martial soul can't even hide. The dragon whisker needle in Tang San's hand is ready to strike, and this will be his final blow. His physical condition no longer allows him to continue his combat power." Zhao Wuji angrily withdrew his martial soul and rubbed the scar on his left arm, looking unhappy but unable to react. He said in a deep voice, "All right, little monsters, you have passed." As a dignified immovable Ming king, he was left in a state of embarrassment by several great soul masters. Dai Mubai on the side was shocked. With his 37-level soul power and his collaboration with Ma Hongjun and Oscar, he had never forced out Zhao's true martial soul. The strength of Zhou Hao and Tang San was really abnormal. Zhu Zhuqing looked over and saw a more determined expression in his eyes. Ning Rongrong seemed to have had other thoughts on his mind, not knowing what he was thinking. And Xiao Wu proudly called out to Tang San, "Brother, you're really amazing." Zhao Wuji's face turned black and he said, "Oscar, give me 2 sausages." His clothes were already in tattered condition, and there were traces of blue-silver grass puncturing all over his body. Although it did not penetrate his skin, it was also very annoying. The most uncomfortable thing was the scar left by Zhou Hao on his left arm, which was still chilly. Oscar ran over and handed over 2 warm sausages. Zhao Wuji took a few bites and his complexion improved significantly. Turning to Dai Mubai, he said, "You are responsible for settling them down. I'll leave first. Do you want to try my sausages, everyone? We won't charge you this time, I guarantee you'll be 100 times more energetic." Oscar continued to promote his product, and the 3 girls didn't even glance at it. Only Zhou Hao took 2 and took a bite, instantly spreading warmth throughout his body. He picked up a sausage and walked towards Zhu Zhuqing, ignoring Dai Mubai's murderous gaze. He squatted beside Zhu Zhuqing and said, "You were injured a bit earlier, and the cost is not small. Take a bite." Zhu Zhuqing gave him a cold glance and said, "No need, thank you." He then turned around and walked away. Zhou Hao felt embarrassed to catch up with his cold demeanor. "What I did today was a bit too much. Sigh, how should girls pursue me?" Zhou Hao, who was single in his previous life and graduated from college, only knew to have thick skin, courage, and a sense of security for girls. He did all of these things himself. Ning Rongrong, who was standing beside him, couldn't help but sneer. Xiao Wu had already been pestering Tang San to wander around the village. "You really have thick skin, do you chase girls like this?" Ning Rongrong chuckled coquettishly, her clear eyes full of teasing. Zhou Hao touched his head and blushed a bit. "Then you can teach me," he said before Ning Rongrong could speak. Dai Mubai had already walked up and said, "Zhou Hao, I want to talk to you." His tone was low, his expression was uncertain, and his mind was heavy. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Conversation, First Meeting with Frand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Conversation, First Meeting with Frand. Zhou Hao stood up and looked at Dai Mubai with a smile. "Okay, what are you going to talk about?" Dai Mubai remained silent, his eyes pointed towards the distance, and he turned towards the depths of the college. Zhou Hao could guess what Dai Mubai was going to say to him, but he would never back down. He will let Dai Mubai know that he is much stronger than him. Dai Mubai led Zhou Hao to a forest and suddenly turned around. Tiger claws were already piercing towards him with a cold light. Zhou Hao frowned and casually blocked Dai Mubai, who was then pushed back a few steps. "What are you doing? Don't think I can't provoke you," Zhou Hao sneered. She is mine, and she can only be mine. I advise you not to be too sentimental, otherwise your fate will be very tragic. Dai Mubai's expression was somewhat insane, as if he was furious. Oh, really? As the second prince of the magnificent Star Luo Empire, can you only threaten people like this? You can come and give it a try. Zhou Hao remained calm and composed. Dai Mubai's abnormal pupils suddenly contracted and said, "You know my identity, who are you?" "Didn't Tang-san say that?" "I'm just his friend from the neighboring village." "Do you know why Zhu Zhuqing came here?" Dai Mu's eyes gradually showed a look of sadness. "I know, because of your royal family's bullshit rules, you have to fight, and if your strength is too weak, both of you may die," Zhou Hao said indifferently. "Ha ha ha, you actually know. Okay, then you understand, we can't win at all. How could I possibly beat Davis? I'm hiding far away, can't I live my comfortable life? She's still coming to find me." Dai Mubai lay down in the grass, speaking on his own. "I've never seen her before, all I know is that I have a fiancé named Zhu Zhuqing. That guy Davis is 5 years older than me, and I knew the ending from the beginning. So I came here. I want to spend my last time like this, and I hope she's doing the same. Everyone is at ease. Hee, anyway, there's a dead end." Dai Mubai said more and more, and his red and blue pupils seemed to lose their luster. Zhou Hao was extremely angry in his heart, kicked him out, and Dai Mubai directly made a rolling gourd, spitting out a mouthful of blood. After a while, Dai Mubai stood up and said, "Zhou Hao, I want to fight you." The third soul ring on his body shone brightly, and the white tiger King Kong transformed. He roared loudly, "I'm not a waste that anyone can step on." His muscles bulged all over his body, and a golden king appeared on his forehead. In the roar of a tiger, a scorching white flash shot out. Zhou Hao didn't care. While possessing the martial soul, he gently tilted his head and dodged. His face was full of sarcasm. "You are very weak, so weak that you are pitiful." The dark golden figure suffocated Dai Mubai for a moment, and he rushed forward regardless of everything, but was only lightly dismissed by Zhou Hao. "You are not qualified to determine her fate. You don't want to live, but she wants to live well, you know. I can see her desire for strength, and you, on the other hand, I only see that you are a useless person who can't control her lower body." Zhou Hao tightly squeezed Dai Mubai's neck with his right hand, his face turning red. Yes, I'm a waste. We don't have any emotions, but we have to come together and face the inevitable fate of death. Go ahead and kill me." Dai Mubai's eyes completely dimmed, losing their anger. "You still have evil eyes and white tigers, why are you wearing less? You are just a sick cat. Think about how old you are this year, how many years you have been working hard to cultivate. What qualifications do you have to die with Zhu Zhuqing? You have never considered resisting." Zhou Hao finished speaking and threw Dai Mubai to the ground. Glancing out of the woods, he left alone. He had already seen Zhu Zhuqing come, and with his words, Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Mubai could communicate calmly. Zhou Hao made up his mind that no matter what the outcome was, he could provide Zhu Zhuqing with protection. As for Dai Mubai, it was up to his fate. Zhou Hao and Zhu Zhuqing met, and the girl's eyes were red, no longer as cold as before. She looked gratefully at Zhou Hao, her body trembling slightly, but still succinctly said, "Thank you." "No need, I hope I can help you. Let's talk to him. I hope you can become more outgoing in the future." Zhou Hao still spoke warmly, nodded, and quickly left. There was nothing to say overnight. The next day, with a slight dawn, Zhou Hao immediately got up and went out to exercise his muscles and bones. From a distance, Zhou Hao saw Tang San sitting on the top of his and Oscar's dormitory practicing, with a faint purple aura coming from the east. He knew it was the purple extreme demon eye. The three girls from the opposite dormitory have all come out, each with their own beauty. Zhu Zhuqing seems to be in a much better mood. Although there is still no smile on her face, her eyes cannot deceive anyone. Ning Rongrong and Xiao Wu were talking about something, as if they were desperately trying to pull Zhu Zhuqing to chat together. Zhou Hao's mood also improved accordingly. Looking at the gentle and lively Ning Rongrong, I thought to myself that this little witch might not be able to hide when she sees Frand. He was about to walk over and chat with them when he saw Dai Mubai and a chubby man with mosaican red hair walking over. Dai Mubai couldn't see any signs of yesterday's depression, and his face was normal. He called out to everyone, "Today is the first day of school, everyone hurry up and gather." As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of dang dang could be heard in the distance. "Hurry up, everyone gather quickly. The dean called us over." Ma Hongjun squinted his eyes and looked at the three beautiful women across from him, unable to move his eyes. "Boss, no wonder you came back last night like a different person. It turns out that this year's students are so beautiful." His saliva was about to flow out, and his small eyes sparkled with a mesmerizing tint. Dai Mubai looked at Zhou Hao with fear and turned around to punch Ma Hongjun, saying, "Fatty guy, I don't have your score. Boss, you have to leave some soup for me when you eat meat." "I just broke up yesterday," said Ma Hongjun with a pitiful expression on his face. Go, you're going to be late." Dai Mubai felt uneasy and walked away quickly. When the crowd arrived at the playground, Oscar was slowly walking over with sleepy eyes biting his own sausage. When they saw him, everyone was surprised. Oscar just shaved off his beard, but his appearance was almost approaching that of Zhou Hao. Oscar walked coquettishly all the way, his peach blossom eyes sunken, giving people a profound feeling. His face was like a crown of jade, handsome and carefree. A pair of eyebrows with moderate thickness and a playful smile on his face, a dignified and charming young master. Especially Ning Rongrong, it was a bright sight in front of him. "Damn it, Oscar, why did you shave your beard?" Ma Hongjun asked quietly. "Didn't you see? With so many beautiful students coming, of course I have to hold on to them. I'm already 14. Oscar glanced at Ning Rongrong and said to Ma Hongjun, "My dad has me even when he's 14. Tang San on the side helplessly supported his forehead. "What's all this about? It's indeed a monster academy." While everyone was speaking, a middle-aged man walked steadily over. Tang San and Xiao Wu were clearly a bit stunned. This person was in his 50s, tall and robust, but his face shape did not match his figure. His face was flat, his cheekbones were wide, and his black-framed crystal eyes made him look a bit cunning, not as noble as Dai Mubai's mouth claimed. Xiao Wu said in surprise in the team, "Brother, isn't this that unscrupulous businessman?" Before Tang San could answer, Oscar was even more surprised. "This is our dean, a soul saint at level 78, the founder of Shrek. The martial soul is a four-eyed owl, very powerful, even stronger than teacher Zhao. Fat Guy is his legitimate disciple." Oscar chuckled and said, "Our dean's biggest characteristic is to protect his short stature. He's very kind." Frand's gaze came over with a playful expression. Oscar was instantly shocked and said, "It's broken, he must have heard it." Zhou Hao quietly observed the dean, and his strength was indeed remarkable. For Frand, Zhou Hao thinks he is a very good dean, and the role of Frand cannot be ignored in the growth process of these students. Frand walked up to the crowd and looked at the neatly arranged 8 people, feeling a little relieved. In his hoarse voice with a hint of magnetism, he said, "This year has been great, with 5 whole little monsters here. I am Frand, the Dean of Shrek, welcoming you on behalf of the college. Later, each of you will pay 100 gold coins to Mr. Li, the finance teacher." Mubai. Dai Mubai walked respectfully forward. Frand said, "These 5 junior students, you go back and tell them the rules of the college, go back and adjust each one. The first class starts tonight. Oscar, Ning Rongrong, you two are exceptions, come with me. And Zhou Hao. Oscar's face collapsed, knowing that he was doomed today, but the only consolation was that there was the lovely Ning Rongrong with him. As for Zhou Hao, he doesn't know the dean's intention. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Proud Charm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Proud Charm. Tang San and Xiao Wu stayed behind to see how Frand taught. Frand didn't care and looked at Oscar and Ning Rongrong, saying, "Your talents are all very good, and the academy won't teach you cultivation methods. Everyone has their own way. Your martial souls are all first-class auxiliary martial souls. What I want to teach you is how to better use your martial souls to better protect yourself and assist teammates." Oscar lowered his head, tired of listening to this kind of rhetoric, while Ning Rongrong tilted his snow-white neck and nodded obediently. Soul masters like you are very fragile and difficult to survive without strong teammates' protection. Zhou Hao, tell me how an auxiliary soul master can protect themselves. Zhou Hao was caught off guard, thinking that Frand would ask Oscar. As an auxiliary soul master, the first thing to learn is to escape, he said with a smile. Did you hear that? He's right, Oscar. You should also understand better. So your first lesson today is physical training. From now on, run around the village at a fast pace for 20 laps. If you haven't finished before lunch, then wait for dinner. Oscar is responsible for leading the way and can use martial souls. Without hesitation, Ning Rongrong lowered his head and ran out. Oscar quickly chased after him. Frand chuckled before looking at Zhou Hao and said, "You are the most surprising little monster of the year, Zhou Hao. The dean has good eyesight, ha ha ha. I heard you and Tang San are from the same hometown." "That's right, we've known each other since we were young," Zhou Hao nodded. "I've never heard of your talent before, and I'm afraid we bunch of bad old men can't teach you anything." Frand smiled gently and looked at Zhou Hao. "My cultivation is still shallow, and you and other teachers are seniors. Naturally, I can learn a lot. Talent is one aspect, and I need to recognize myself more." Frand's smile deepened and he said, "You're a good student to teach. I'll take you as a student. Today, you can follow behind the two of them and watch. That girl won't be obedient. It's up to you then. I won't teach her a lesson now." "Yes, President." Zhou Hao roast in his heart, answered with a smile and went out. Frand finally pulled Tang San to ask about Yu Xiaojiang. The golden iron triangle had been separated for many years, and the relationship between old friends had already brewed into an old wine. They wouldn't say how much they missed it, but the past years had already settled in their hearts. "Ha ha ha, he's still the same, like a stubborn donkey." Frand laughed loudly and patted Tang San's shoulder. "Since you're his proof, then prove it to everyone." After saying this, he turned around and left. Outside the village, Oscar ran steadily ahead of Ning Rongrong, the beautiful girl pleasing to the eye, and he felt as if he was not tired at all. Ning Rongrong, however, became more and more angry when she ran. At the beginning, she was confident. Because her father had always asked her to exercise since she was a child, and her words were almost the same as Frand's, she thought she could run. "After running for so long, I didn't even come back in a circle." "Oscar, how far is this circle?" Ning Rongrong felt a little annoyed by the son. Oscar smiled bitterly and said, "When I first left the village, I told you that this was an impossible task. Even if the soul warrior came, he would be exhausted." Ning Rongrong glanced at him. Although she was still young, her gentle gaze carried a hint of seductive charm. Oscar's bones were a bit soft when he was seen. He chuckled and leaned over with a shy face, whispering, "I have roots." Then he looked at Ning Rongrong as if offering a treasure and said, "We two auxiliary soul masters can still be hungry." His hand flashed with a light, and a sizzling hot and steaming sausage had already appeared in his hand, handed over to Ning Rongrong. "Don't worry, eat it. My soul curse sounds a bit unpleasant, but the healing effect of this sausage is absolutely amazing." Ming Rongrong finally didn't want to conceal his true nature. He looked at Oscar contemptuously and said, I still have 2 slices of thick bread. I'll eat your head. His words were astonishing and his strength was to the extreme. After speaking, a rainbow light flashed in his palm, aided by agility, and he ran away in the distance, leaving Oscar stunned in place. Even Zhou Hao, who was far behind, couldn't bear to cry or laugh. Although he knew that Ming Rongrong couldn't hide it anymore, he was still a bit affected by seeing a gentle and kind girl's art style change with his own eyes. Zhou Hao walked over and said with a smile, Oscar, what's wrong? Isn't it a bit unacceptable? It's okay, she's just a spoiled little princess. She's not bad. Run well, the dean asked me to supervise you. Well, I will. It's just me being sentimental. Oscar smiled and shook his head, but there was no sign of it. He continued to run with his head down and ate the sausage while running. Zhou Hao's eyes narrowed slightly, feeling that he could teach this lawless little witch a lesson. Ming Rongrong ran very fast, and his soul power was almost depleted. Thinking of the obedience of the sect towards him, Frand couldn't bear to let him run so much, so he turned around and walked towards the city of Soto. She is planning to go shopping, eat something, and buy some beautiful dresses or something. Just as he was thinking about going to treat himself well later, Ming Rongrong saw Zhou Hao's figure appearing at the fork in the road ahead, and his dissatisfaction and resentment erupted in his heart. Zhou Hao, did Frand ask you to monitor me? She put her hands on her hips, with a proud princess-like expression, fearless of heaven and earth. Yes, the dean asked me to supervise you in completing the training. Unexpectedly, after only running 2 laps, you wanted to slack off. Go back and continue. Zhou Hao didn't let her down at all. Who do you think you are? You're just a soul master with some talent. Do you know who I am? Of course I know, you are the favorite little daughter of the 7 Treasures Glass sect leader, right? Zhou Hao said lightly. Ming Rongrong didn't take it seriously, with a smug expression on his pretty face. Our sect still has 2 titles, Bone Grandpa and Sword Grandpa, Douluo. Those who understand should not be the path of this young lady. Ming Rongrong is really spoiled like a child. Zhou Hao couldn't help but laugh in his heart, thinking that she looked quite cute. But now you are in Shrek, not your 7 Treasures Glass sect, and you are just a great soul master with no combat power. Zhou Hao remained indifferent on the surface, his dark golden light flickering in his hand, unmoved at all. Ming Rongrong was startled by Zhou Hao's aura. When did she suffer such injustice? She wanted to cry, but felt ashamed. Suddenly, she had a sudden inspiration and said, Zhou Hao, with your talent and strength, should you consider joining our sect? Don't worry, I will have Grandpa Gu and his team personally teach you. They are all super Douluo, much stronger than Frand and his team, and they can also help you hunt the most suitable soul rings. The conditions are very good. Zhou Hao seemed to be a bit tempted. Seeing this, Ming Rongrong's pride in his eyes could hardly be concealed, so he didn't believe that I couldn't handle you. But I refuse. Zhou Hao suddenly turned serious and refused. Ming Rongrong looked at Zhou Hao's teasing eyes and knew he had been fooled. With a wow sound, he burst into tears. When she cried, Zhou Hao still panicked. When the girl cried, he had no choice but to be flustered and a bit at a loss. At this moment, Oscar was running over panting heavily. Zhou Hao quickly gave him a wink and said, Oscar, you can take her on the run later. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. After saying this, he blinked and patted Oscar with a bewildered face. He quickly ran away, while Ming Rongrong was still crying in grievances. Oscar reacted and cast a grateful look at Zhou Hao. Walking up to Ming Rongrong's side, he took out another big sausage and said, If you're tired, eat some. I'll run with you. Ming Rongrong turned his head, his eyes slightly red. He grabbed the sausages and took a hard bite, causing Oscar to shiver uncontrollably. Ning Rongrong finished taking a few bites, glared at Oscar, and then started running again. Oscar gave a cheap smile and quickly followed suit. As night fell, Flender, a four-eyed owl, stood on the big playground, staring seriously at the 8 students in front of him. Zhou Hao, Dai Mubai, Tang San, Xiao Wu, Ma Hongjun, and the cold and neat Zhu Zhu were all prepared early in the morning, each full of energy. And next to them, Ning Rongrong and Oscar, both of whom had just finished running and were too tired to straighten their waists. They finished 20 laps, and Zhou Hao knew about it. Frand held the letter from the 7 treasures glass sect in his hand, with a sly smile in his eyes, and looked at Ning Rongrong. Have you finished 20 laps? His tone was plain, not knowing whether he was happy or angry. We've finished running, both of us have finished running. Oscar glanced at Ning Rongrong beside him, sweating profusely, and a hint of pity rose in his heart, answering to Frand. Frand remained silent and walked up to Ning Rongrong, saying, "Tell me if you have completed my task." "It's done." Ning Rongrong's tired voice faded and he stared at Frand with hatred. "Why did you first go to Soto City, thinking I wouldn't know?" Frand pushed his glasses. Ning Rongrong completely gave up and said, "Frand, you old man, you also bullied me. You and Zhou Hao have the same moral character, and I will definitely finish running. I want Grandpa Jian to take care of you." "Woo-woo." She cried and ran away, leaving Frand with a stiff face. Everyone looked at Zhou Hao with a puzzled expression on their faces. He smiled awkwardly and remained silent. Only Oscar gave him a grateful look and said to Frand, "Dean, I'll go persuade her." After speaking, he chased after Ma Hongjun with envy in his eyes. Zhu Zhuqing's cold gaze flickered slightly. She glanced at the figure of Ning Rongrong running out, followed closely by Oscar, with inexplicable palpitations in her heart. Her black eyes glanced at Zhou Hao and quickly withdrew. Frand was still holding the letter in his hand, recalling that Zhao Wuji had been beaten up by Tang Hao, who was concerned about his son, last night. He felt a bit regretful and shouldn't have offended Ning Rongrong. This child has a good heart, and the sword fighter Luo probably didn't want to keep his hand when he hit him. Thinking of this, Frand coughed twice and said, "All right, if you want to stay here for cultivation in the future, you must abide by the rules here and attend every class well. My words are absolute orders, everyone has their own lessons. If you neglect, I will let you know the consequences. Mu Bai, take them with you and set off with me." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Soto's Great Soul Field, Golden Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Soto's Great Soul Field, Golden Soul. Frand carried his hands on his back and walked lightly. The person had already rushed out quickly, and his strong body appeared quite light at this moment. Everyone quickly caught up, but in this relatively fast situation, the difference in strength among the 6 people was reflected. Following closely behind Frand is the strongest Zhou Hao, followed closely by Dai Mubai, and Zhu Zhuqing ranks third. Tang San's ghost and shadow were not good at straight-line acceleration, so Xiao Wu ran with him. Ma Hongjun chased the 2 alone in the end, and the tears of dog food were almost coming down his face. Along the way, Frand didn't say a word, just hurried on. Only Dai Mubai and Zhou Hao knew the destination of this trip. The Soto Soul Battlefield. Drive at full speed until he sees the walls of the city of Soto, and then Frand stops. It was already late at night, but the city of Soto was bustling and bustling. This was the interior of the Baroque kingdom, and there was no danger. The city gates were still wide open at night, and everyone easily entered the city. The city is brightly lit, and the vendors on both sides of the street are still hawking. There are a variety of snacks and small objects to watch, and the sight of small dances is overwhelming. He and Tang San have lived here for 2 days, but they have never come out at night. Ma Hongjun stared at the beautiful legs coming and going, his eyes twirling, and his evil fire was about to come out. If it weren't for Frand's concern about cleaning him up, he would have gone to the fence to have a good time. Zhu Zhuqing's expression remained unchanged, her eyes fixed on Zhou Hao and Frand ahead. After walking for a while, Frand stopped and gestured for everyone to sit down at the roadside tea stall, asking for a pot of the cheapest tea. Zhou Hao was thirsty, but he drank a mouthful of tea foam, shook his head, and roast in his heart. Frank really deserves his reputation. The opposite Zhu Zhuqing quietly curved his mouth. Dean, we won't have the first class here, will we? The foam on the tea made Xiaowu frown. Of course not, where are your classes? Frand raised his finger and saw a large and magnificent complex of buildings. All are domes, nearly 100 meters high, with faint cheers from the crowd. Dai Mubai's face changed drastically and he said, Dean, it's only the first day today. Should we let them go there? Frand said calmly, remember, the reason why monsters are called monsters is because they have different cultivation methods from ordinary people. This is where they progress the fastest. Little monsters, this is the Soto battle soul field. Real combat is the biggest driving force for your strength improvement. Seeing Tang San and others looking puzzled, Frand continued, every city at the main city level has such a building called the Battle Soul Field, which is a place where soul masters compete for martial souls. Tang San frowned and said, Soul master is a noble profession. Why go there to be seen as a monkey? Hee, you're right, but you have to admit that under their complete system, this is the best place for a soul master to demonstrate value. How many soul masters pursue fame and fortune here, and how many soul masters break through themselves in each competition? And most importantly, there is absolute fairness here. After Frand finished speaking, he only paid for half a pot of tea and walked towards the soul fighting field with everyone, citing that only he and Zhou Hao had each poured a cup. Arriving at the hall of the soul fighting field, Zhou Hao looked around at the familiar scene, smiled, and touched the golden soul fighting emblem in his pocket. Frand asked everyone to register here, pay 10 gold soul coins, and receive the initial Iron Dough soul emblem. Here, you need to start at the level of Iron Soul from the beginning and win the competition to earn points. If you have enough points, you can upgrade your badge. My requirement is that each of you receive a Silver Soul badge and a Team Gold badge before graduation. Do you understand? Said Frand. Zhou Hao smiled and nodded, then turned around and walked towards the main soul fighting field. Zhou Hao, that's the main soul fighting field. Only high-level soul fighting strongers can go there. You haven't registered yet, Dai Mubai called out to him. Since being taught a lesson by Zhou Hao yesterday, Dai Mubai's eyes have become much clearer and he seems to have let go of many things. From Zhu Zhuqing's performance, it seems that the two have reached some kind of agreement and ended this non-emotional relationship. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Zhou Hao was strong and calm, but unexpectedly caused an upset. Zhou Hao turned around and said naturally, yes, I know this is the main soul fighting field, so I have to go here. He walked step by step to the front desk, took out a small golden object from his pocket, and handed it to the receptionist. The person's gaze became extremely respectful as soon as they touched the golden object. Your esteemed Lord Jindo Soul, may I ask if you need anything? Soto's great soul field is dedicated to serving you. The young receptionist appeared anxious and fearful. Just give us the best viewing room, and also arrange the competition for my friends as soon as possible. Yes, please follow me. The front desk smiled gently, bowed slightly, and turned to walk upstairs. Zhou Hao turned to look at the stunned crowd and said, everyone, come with me first. We should be able to compete in a while. Are you the golden soul? Frand couldn't accept it and rolled his Adam's apple, feeling as if all his years of experience had been fed to the dog. Tang San and his companions had just accepted the reality that even the Silver Soul was out of reach, and when they turned around, they were extremely surprised by Zhou Hao's golden soul emblem. Dai Mubai clenched his fist and lowered his head in a dull manner. He thought to himself that as a soul lord at level 37, he had only participated in 56 soul battles and had only managed to win or lose 5 to 5. He is the one who knows the most about the difficulty of upgrading, and the difficulty of advancing. Each badge increases exponentially. However, Zhou Hao still won the gold badge with a soul power of level 32. Everyone followed Zhou Hao up, and Ma Hongjun hugged Zhou Hao's arm and said, "From now on, you will be my second boss, Jin Dohun. Zhou, you are the real boss." "It's nothing, I just came early. Since I was promoted to the Great Soul Master, I have been fighting souls in various cities. So far, I have played more than 1,300 matches. I have one more, but of course I have lost a lot." "You can definitely do it in the future," Zhou Hao said lightly, a terrifying number. Zhu Zhuqing's beautiful eyes sparkled with a hint of pride in her heart. Due to her childhood living environment, she even admired strength. And Zhou Hao is powerful enough, and also has more attractive charm, allowing the girl's love flowers to bloom little by little, and the iceberg in her heart is gradually thawing. "Zhou Hao, let me see your badge, okay?" Frand's tone seemed somewhat weathered. "Of course." Frand took the badge and gently stroked it, which was also something he had before. He thought of the days decades ago when he was in his prime, with the golden iron triangle crisscrossing the continent and making a name for himself in the soul fighting field. The golden emblem shone particularly brightly under the lights in the field, and Frand saw the small letters engraved on the back. Xiong Jun. This is the glory that belongs exclusively to every Golden Do soul powerhouse. I originally wanted you to see the world, but I didn't expect Zhou Hao to give me a big surprise. Frand returned the badge and said, "Golden Soul, I have to say you are the best little monster since Shrek's founding." "Alas, Dean, don't say that. As a person with a lack of money in the 5 elements, I come to fight souls for money. I get rich every time I fight, and I give too much to fight with the Golden Soul." "Ha ha ha," Zhou Hao said casually. Frand paused noticeably and looked at the others, feeling as if his thoughts were being seen through. He brought these little monsters not only for battle, but also for teaching expenses. Dai Mubai looked at Zhu Zhuqing and then at the Golden Soul emblem, completely losing his heart. End of this chapter.